Hey everyone, what is going on? My name is M1K3 and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're taking a look at what I did to play the best I've ever played in a solo cash cup. Before we get into that, 51.1% of you guys watching are not subscribed, so if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. And remember, for every 1,000 users we get on code M1K3, I'll be coaching one of you guys for a full tournament session. With that said, let's aim for 5,000 likes and let's get into today's episode. As you guys all probably know by now, my game plan in the solo cash cups is to always take high ground in game number 1, and I usually take it in the half and half zone, but this game I didn't commit to it, and that was okay as long as I committed to it in the first moving zone. You see, the thing about first games is that most players can't fight, and I'm not saying this to be rude to anyone in the lobby, but taking high ground is easy because of how bad players generally are in first lobbies. And as you just saw, I went up for high ground, took a few shots and went back down again, and that was my mistake in the first game. And yes, I didn't have a lot of mats, but I could have easily taken high ground as the guy up there seemed completely clueless. There is no reason to half commit in your first game like I did, because there's such a small chance that the opponent will kill you because of his or her fighting skills. Talking about fighting, right here I know I am going to jump into my enemy's box, but I do so with 177 health, when I could have used one chug splash to get up to 197. Not doing this was a massive mistake. When you are taking a big risk like I did in this endgame, you always want to have the best possible odds of succeeding, and in this game I could have had even better odds than I had by simply using one chug splash. In game number 2, I get into a few early game engagements, and off-spawn fighting in solos is, generally speaking, incredibly easy if you know how to play it correctly. In solos, what a lot of people do wrong is they spend too long looting and not farming mats. This makes off-spawn fighting nearly impossible to win because fighting without mats is very difficult. So in the early games, when you clearly see you're contested, find an AR and a shotgun and 3 minis and start instantly farming mats. Be aware over what you farm so you get mats the fastest way possible, and don't be too greedy on your loot. In this early game, as a result of surprisingly bad right-hand peeks and a few missed shots, I go down to my opponent. Game number 3 emphasizes how important it is to farm mats early on in case of an early game engagement. And because of how effective I farmed mats, I was able to pick up a few early game kills, and I claimed lazy because of it. Whenever you're playing cash cups and you're in the 4th zone, what I always do is look at every potential rotate I might have to make, where I focus mainly on the hardest ones. And because of this preparation, I can already, the millisecond the zone pops up, start rotating. And whilst I am rotating, people are on their map checking out the new zone and planning out their rotate, giving me a lot of playroom to simply just rotate in the open. And I did this perfectly for the entirety of this tournament. The same very thing applies for moving zones. I always mark the dead side in the half and half zone to know what side of zone I want to be on. What really made this tournament good for me was how incredibly fast I rotated for every single zone. In endgame, when you are on high ground, you always have to be aware over everyone that has an opportunity to take it from you. And in this endgame, I simply wasn't as aware as I should have been, and someone landed on me. When this player did so, I completely tunnel visioned on eliminating him, not thinking about the other players in the lobby. And this is another thing you can't do on high ground. You always have to see the bigger picture and focus on holding it rather than getting an elimination. After a good performance in game number 4, where I felt I had full control over my circumstances, I was incredibly confident going into game number 5. In this game, I make a game-winning play. When you are in mountain zones like I am in this endgame, you always want to be as high up as possible. And I decided to use a bounce pad before I even see the moving zone to get up to the mountain. And this changed the entire game. When you make a play like this, it's crucial that you look around, spot potential players that can beam you, and go for it when no one is looking. Going for a play like this can easily get you server focused, and you gotta make sure no one is looking. After this game, I was around top 50 on the leaderboards, placing incredibly consistent in my games. After this game, I was sitting pretty in 86th place, which was still decent, but placing outside of the top 10 in these Cash Cup games is very bad, as all of the points start rolling in from top 10 to first place. In Game 7, I completely played out my early game wrong and lazy. I disengaged when there was only 2 other opponents landing there. This made my rotations really slow as I needed to farm max metal on a super bad loot path. And I ended up using way too many mats getting into the different zones. And because of that, I looked for eliminations in the half and half zone and got jumped because of it. After Game 7, I still had 3 games remaining, but only 20 minutes to play them out. So I thought I wanted to clear out lazy in game number 8, because if I died, I could just hop into a new game. Unfortunately, this strategy isn't the best when you're up against decent players. And I am by no means the best fighter. My strong suit is being fast and precise on rotations, and going for this fight was something I should never have done. So this was it, game number 10, the make it or break it game. All I had to do was get to end game and play like I usually do. Get a solid top 3 placement and I would place a top 100 in this solo Cash Cup. In Lazy, I got contested by someone who definitely was far from bad, and we had one of the most intense fights I have ever played. So yeah, the last game was very bad and I threw it out of the window. Anyhow, what this placement shows is potential. If I would have won that game with no more kills than I had, I would have placed in the top 60. If I got 2 more kills and won the game, I would have made $200 and placed within the top 50. I'm overall very happy with how I played, and next time I'll definitely make sure to place even better. Thank you guys so much for watching this entire video. Stay safe and take care.